I really wish I had a globe to spin in the intro to this video because it feels like it would be appropriate to sit here with like a spinning globe as I announce the Around the World in 8 Ts tag, but I don't have one yet, so unfortunately that will have to wait. I do want one eventually, so maybe when I get one, I will remake this video and give it the intro it deserves. Hi everyone, Rosie here. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are going on a bookish voyage. We are doing the Around the World in 8 Ts book tag. I was tagged by Ross of Skylydandling About the Books. Thank you, Ross. And the original is by Book Time with Elvis. I know I say this in every video, but seriously, please go check their videos out. Check out their channels, give them a subscribe because they both make excellent content. We only have 8 Ts to get around the world, so I guess let's get started. Prompt 1. Theater. Do you read plays? If so, tell us about one of your favorites. I don't usually read plays. I read a few plays in school, like in high school, I guess. I enjoy going to see plays, although it's something I never prioritized pre-pandemic, and now I'm like, why did I never do that? Once it's safe to do so again, and once theaters start opening up again, I would really like to go and see more plays and consume more plays that way, but honestly, I don't particularly enjoy reading them, and there are so many things in the world that I do love reading, so I just don't feel any huge need to read more plays. I feel like I need to justify why I don't read them, but I don't. It's okay, I'm allowed to not read stuff. Prompt 2. Travel. Sadly, we can't travel these days, but do you have a favorite travel writer or travel book to take you away on an armchair adventure? Well, I was going to say Dervla Murphy, except then Ross used that as her answer, so I'm not going to be repetitive. And I'm going to mention Tracks by Robyn Davidson. In the 1970s, Davidson, who I think was Australian, I'm pretty sure she was, but I think she was like from one of the cities on the East Coast, moved to Alice Springs in the Northern Territory, was working there in a bar, and then I can't remember why, but she decided that she was going to travel from Alice Springs in the center of the country to Broome on the, what coast of that is? Broome on the west coast of Australia by camel, alone. So she'd never worked with camels before. She got like a job with a guy who had camels. She bought some camels, she learned how to handle them, and then she set off and traveled 1,700 miles alone through the desert with her 4 camels and a dog. And then after the fact, she wrote a book about the experience, about what happened, about all the things she learned, and all the things that happened to her while she was doing this. It was incredible. And I think it's pretty well reviewed. I think people like it. I think it would be a really enjoyable armchair travel book. But it has particular, closeness in my heart because I read it while on a big solo road trip around Australia. So obviously, driving around Australia on your own on highways with a cell phone is nowhere near as daunting or impressive as what she did, but I actually found this book in a used bookstore on I think maybe the second day of my road trip. I then kept it and I read it while I didn't drive the path that she took, so there's no road through that desert really, but while I was traveling from the Northern Territory to Broome in Western Australia, I read the book, and when I got to Broome, I did the super touristy thing and I rode camels on the beach by the Indian Ocean, and it was amazing. Although not doing the same level of epicness as what she was doing, reading this book while I was traveling through a similar environment on my own, it was really impactful, and I remember the book really fondly because of that. Prompt 3. Time. What book took you the longest time to read? Why was that? I'm not sure it's the absolute longest, but Half of a Yellow Sun by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie definitely took me a very long time to read. I started reading this book in August of 2018 while I was on vacation with my parents. And nothing about the book put me off. Nothing about the book meant that it took me a really long time to read. It's just that I was reading it on the plane on the way home from this trip I was on, and I forgot my Kindle in the seat pocket in front of me. I realized this maybe 15 minutes after getting off the plane, went to the customer service desk, but they couldn't find it. It's gone. I never got that Kindle back. I sort of just hit a stopping point. I was halfway through the book. I probably would have finished it within 2 days, but I couldn't remember where I was, and I don't know, I just lost momentum, I guess. So I didn't finish Half of a Yellow Sun until June of 2020. So technically it did take me almost 2 years to read that book. Although, like I said, if I hadn't lost my Kindle, it would have been probably a week. Prompt 4. Traditional. Fairy tales or nursery rhymes. What are some of your favorites and what are some you would not think suitable for kids today? This made me really sad because it made me realize I don't think I have a favorite nursery rhyme. I couldn't think of one. I mean, I know some nursery rhymes. I know some fairy tales, I guess. But I couldn't think of one that was like my favorite. So I don't know. Maybe I need to pick one. And as for suitable for kids, I think that's a really interesting question because I know a lot of the like original Grimm's fairy tales type ones were pretty gory, pretty gruesome, pretty horrific in places. And I'm sure some of them aren't really suitable for kids, but I think there's also a bit of a question of how do we decide what's suitable for kids? I don't know. I'm not a parent and I don't think about these things that much, but I'm sure there's an interesting discussion to be had here and someone should have it even if I don't know how. Prompt 5. Tasty. Food, glorious food. What are some of your favorite books about food? I really enjoyed The Truffle Underground, and this has the world's longest subtitle, so I'm just gonna read it to you. A tale of mystery, mayhem, and manipulation in the shadowy market of the world's most expensive fungus by Ryan Jacobs. I mean, that subtitle, right? It tells you everything you need to know. It's all about truffles and how, like, that market is actually wild. You might think it sounds boring and it's just about, like, one random ingredient in fancy food that a lot of people never even eat, but it is intense. I'm pretty sure this book involves murder, it involves dog napping, there's like major heists and theft. It's super intense. So if you've always wanted to read food writing but thought that maybe it wouldn't be organized crime enough for you, then check this one out because I think it'll meet your needs. Also, tying somewhat back to the travel one, this book describes some super interesting places where truffles grow and also like the amazing meals that are cooked with these truffles, and it just makes you want to start planning trips right away. Question 6. Terrible. Who is a truly terrible, nasty, but memorable character that stands out for you? This is a relatively recent read, so maybe I'll be proven wrong and I won't remember him in 5 years, but Governor General Han? I don't know how to pronounce that, it's a Dutch name, but the Governor General from The Devil and the Dark Water by Stuart Turton is an awful character, and I think he's gonna stick with me. He is a truly horrible person, and his actions and choices and the way he treats the people around him is despicable. And because of that, he's a fascinating, at best, hindrance to our main character. At worst, maybe he's the villain, who knows? He certainly seems like he could be because he seems so freaking evil. But will he be or won't he be? You'll have to read the book and find out. But in addition, as the story progresses, we see him as a more and more human character. At first it seems like maybe he's just going to be a standard sort of one-dimensional villain type character and he's evil and that's all there is to it. But as the story progresses, we see more of him and more of his humanity, but he doesn't get any less evil. He's still a terrible person even when you see the human side of him, and I love that. Prompt 7. Truth. The truth is often stranger than fiction, they say. Give us some examples of this from your extensive reading. I don't think I've ever mentioned this book on this channel, and I need to, and you guys need to read this book if it sounds remotely interesting because it's incredible. It's called Run, Hide, Repeat, a memoir from a fugitive childhood by Pauline Dakin. So the author of this book is a Canadian journalist, and it's a memoir about her truly strange childhood and early adulthood. She lived, I think for the first like 5 to 8 years of her life maybe, a pretty normal life, and I want to say it was the 70s-ish, in Vancouver with her parents and her younger brother, and everything's very standard seemingly. And then after her mom and dad got a divorce, her life started to get strange, and then all of a sudden one day it was sort of like she came home from school and her mom had packed up all of their stuff and was like, right, we're moving. And she didn't tell anyone in advance. Pauline didn't know beforehand. It was just literally one day to the next, we're moving. And they moved like 1,000 kilometers away from where they were living. And throughout her childhood, this happened several more times where, you know, her mom would pick her up from school and be like, we're going somewhere else. And no notice, no, just very strange, mysterious what's going on here. They kept having like break-ins happen at their houses and cars being stolen. And this one family friend who was the one person who always seemed to move with them. Anyway, he got like beaten up. what's going on? She just sort of lives with this. And then when she's in university, her mother and the family friends sit her down and say, you know, you're probably wondering why we've had such a strange life, why we moved so much, what was going on with all this. Well, we're in like protection. We're being protected by a super secret anti-organized crime agency that is taking on the mafia. We're being targeted by the mafia. That's why we keep having to move. That's what's going on here. And at first, she's sort of, you know, it's her mom. It's this person who's been like a father figure for her. She believes them. Of course you would. Why would they lie to her? And then as time passes, she starts to question, and you'll probably guess based on the fact that she published this book, that she finds out that no, what her parents told her was not at all true, and she figures out what was actually going on. This is the sort of book where if I read a thriller that was set up this way, I would go, this is implausible and kind of not very believable as a story, but it was her life. So if that's not The Truth is Stranger Than Fiction, I don't know what is. And finally, 8. Tag. Make up an 8th prompt directed to those you wish to tag. Please stick to the theme of tea. So Ross's prompt was turnip, an insult from your country or culture, and if it has featured in any books. Guys, I don't know if Canadians have any specific insults, and it makes me kind of sad. I really tried to think of some. I even Googled it, and I really couldn't come up with anything. The best I could get was Hooser, but like, that's literally the first time I've said that word out loud in my life. I don't think I have ever heard anyone use Hooser as an insult. I don't think I've ever seen anyone use it in a serious way, only ever in like a stereotype caricature of a Canadian type way. So that doesn't really feel like it counts. I've also never seen it in a book, but then again, like, I don't read hockey books from the 80s, so I'm sure it does appear. I've never seen it. If any of you guys are Canadian or know any insults that we use that other people don't, I would love to know, because I really can't think of any. And my prompt is turntable. Tell me about a musician you would like to read a biography or autobiography or memoir about or from, regardless of whether that book exists or not. So if there is a book that you want to talk about and you've read a memoir about a musician and you think it's amazing and you want to share it, please share that one. If you've got one on your TBR, I'd love to hear about that. Or even if it's just, here's a musician who you think had an interesting life and you want to see a memoir or autobiography about them, or biography, and it doesn't exist yet, tell us about them as well. It's an open-ended prompt. Which brings me to tagging some people. First of all, I'm going to tag Lana of Lana Ex Libris. She is a fantastic booktuber, of course. I mean, I say this about everyone I tag, but they're all amazing. And she's lived in a lot of different places in the world, and I don't know, she likes doing tag videos. I like watching her tag videos. It's not that complicated. I'm also going to tag Kathy of The Grim Reader, because somewhat similarly to Lana, she's lived in a lot of different places and has sort of an interesting life progression around the world. And again, I just want to watch more of her videos, so if I can get her to do this one, that would be awesome. I'm going to tag Couple of a Couple Books. I'm not sure what his international living situation has or has not been, but I just really, really like his energy and the way he talks about books, and I feel like he's gonna have some really interesting answers to these tags, so I wanna know what those books are. I'm selfish here, okay? There's nothing more altruistic about it. And finally, I'm gonna tag Bethan of Bethan Brininga Sokolar. Again, I'm just being selfish. Bethan is amazing. Her videos are incredible. I love her tag answers, so I wanna see some of these. I apologize if all of you guys have already done this tag. I'm filming this like 3 weeks before you're going to be seeing it, so none of you have done it yet. You may have already done it. Of course, if you don't want to do it, no pressure whatsoever. And of course, if you would like to do this tag but I have not tagged you, consider yourself tagged. It's the usual drill. I would love to see any of your answers, so leave them down below in a comment. Let me know if you make the video. Just tag answers. Yes, I want more. I can't think of an interesting question to ask you guys at the end of this, so I'm just gonna say leave me a comment down below. As always, if you like this video, please give me a like. If you would like to see more of my videos, please hit subscribe, and thank you for watching.